truth and preservation of our soul shine. I can feel it, yours and mine. Close your eyes and witness it inside. In your bones, you will know. Trust and let go, and let it flow.
Welcome to another episode of All Things in the Name of Love. And today I have with me beautiful soul sister, Sue Erhart, who, among other things, is the author of Lose Your Critic for Good, which we had a conversation about 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yes.
Really, really profound. And what Sue brings to the table, among other things, is pragmatic spirituality, practical spirituality. And I love that because, you know, a lot of people go into this spiritual realm and they get esoteric and unrelatable. And so I want to thank you first and foremost for joining me on the podcast. And I want to start off by telling me a little bit about your spiritual journey and how you stumbled upon this beautiful way of being.
Well, I will tell you, Sophia, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm someone who's a lawyer by training and a girl who grew up in the Midwest, came from a big Catholic family, very traditional. And when I was in adulthood, I found myself moving away from organized religion and really starting to walk a spiritual path that was all my own. And I did this for a long time, really kind of sought my own connection to source and really finding my own way. And in that personal journey, I learned lots of tools, techniques, and different things that I experimented with on myself that were massively helpful. And I just used them throughout my life. And I used them, frankly, even in my career, where I had a successful career as a lawyer and a corporate executive. So I'm now retired from that because I've found my next career, which is writing. And through writing, I really uncovered that I had this voice of wisdom that really wanted to come forward. And it really wanted to share the wisdom that I wish I had when I was on my own spiritual journey. I mean, I really, in so many ways, I write for myself. And that's what I try to do. So I try to share information that shows people that, first of all, you're on a spiritual journey, whether you know it or not. And once you open yourself up to that, there are many practical tools to help you incorporate spirituality into your life to better your life.
I love that because, like, you know, I remember when I started being aware of my spiritual self, I was like, okay, spirituality's here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the rest of me.
Yes.
And it was because I couldn't really grasp that I'm a spiritual being living in
Mm-hmm.
experience. And so once I realized that I couldn't keep separating it, my life became a lot less chaotic. And I was able to just like tune in. So like before I make a decision now, I'll just ask myself, I had a question come in this morning. It was like, how do I get more aware of how, like in a moment, what self-regulation looks like? Like, how do I really care for myself in each moment instead of like, wait till I get to the point where I'm like, I'm overstimulated, to like, what does it look like for me to just be present, like more and more of the time? And so I was walking today with the dogs I'm with, and a tree just like said, hey, come give me a hug. And I was like, oh, thank you. So it really is like, as we release that need for control, we can open up ourselves to more of that amazingness. So how has that shown up for you?
So, and that is the message that I want to get out. I think that for me, really delving into spirituality and really making it part of every day has made my life easier. To your point, decisions become really simple when you're connected with your authentic self. Your passions, your wants, your desires, your curiosities, your interests, they come forward to guide you through life. And so in that way, I see my spirit as the keeper of those things, and they pull me forward in life towards what I truly want. My life is a lot more fun. And really, my life is much more of what I want too. And those are all of the things that I had mistaken beliefs around spirituality. So when I was young, I thought spirituality was about repressing the self and tamping down your wants and not moving towards what you wanted, but doing what was expected of you by others, conforming to society. I mean, I thought all of those things made me good when I was in my early adulthood. And I really had to unwind all of those things. And once I did the work of unwinding all of those things, it led to a deep inner wisdom. And then hence was the impetus for my book, Lose Your Critic for Good.
Yeah. No, I love that, because like we all come in with these programs and belief systems that, you know, I recently heard, I do journaling every day, and I realized like, okay, so I got people pleasing, codependency, victimhood, what else? Narcissism and controlling people in my life. I was like, so why did I bring those in? I was curious, like, why did I have like this buffet of the top 5 trauma bonding things?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I heard, so you can be more compassionate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll even go further. So of course we all have those things. I mean, we come into life and obviously we've forgotten who we truly are. And we're put into a situation where we observe everyone around us and we make leaps and conclusions based on what we see around what's required of us. You know, this is what I need to do to be loved. This is what I need to do to belong. This is what I need to do to get what I want. And so we adapt and do all these behaviors throughout our life. And I'll tell you one reason I think we do it, because it is so flippin' fun when you finally unwind all those things and get contact again with your authentic self. It's like exhilaration. It's total joy. And so in some ways, rather than beating myself up for those prior behaviors, I see them as a setup for the joy I'm having today.
I love that. I love that reframe, because like, I don't judge myself for those things, because I'm like, oh, you know what? I just have trauma that I chose when I incarnated for me to get to the other side of it. And if I still have parts of me that are like feeling off, that's okay. There's no judgment here. It's like just compassion, because I know on the other side of that, I do feel more joy. I do feel more peace. I do feel more expansion in the awareness of my I am presence, of my Christed self, whatever you want to call it. And to release that space of the judgment, which comes from parents, it comes from school systems, it comes from the inner self, is so, it's elusive at first, right? Because you're so used to hearing that programming, but to have the awareness shift, and I'm being drawn to like have a conversation about this right now. Like, when did you discover and how did you unwind some of that?
Really, I just took myself on a journey of exploration. I read a lot, I listened to a lot of things, and frankly, I also used my rational mind. You know, once you sort of wrap your head around and say, God is unconditional love, then why are we all putting all of these conditions of what we have to be, do, say, look like, or whatever in order to access it? So, I mean, to me, it was even like, this is just really logical. And I take the different tools that I teach through my book and elsewhere, and I use them on myself, and I try things out and I figure out what works, and then I try to pass it on. So I see my life as my lab of where I'm taking ideas and then seeing if I can make movement. But so much of the behaviors that hold us back, and again, I put that all into the category of the critic, are simply habitual responses that we've let go for far too long. And I see it as reclaiming your power from those programs and from those thought patterns, and then creating some new positive thought patterns as the work of the latter half of life.
Yeah, I love that, because like we do have all those. I actually caught myself today describing mechanics. Like I have this uncanny ability to find the most amazing mechanics. And I started saying, I've never had a bad one. And I went, nope, cancel clear. I only have amazing mechanics. And something as simple as that is so profound, because I don't want to negate my amazing track record, incredible mechanics, but I get to choose that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think one of the core tools that I teach is really monitoring your thinking and noticing when it skews negative, and then deliberately and purposefully turning your attention to a want or a preference. So often, if I'm in worry, I stop and I say, no, here is what I want. And then I just get really, really clear on that. And frankly, the worry is helpful because it tells me just flip it around. I want the opposite of that. And you see it that way. And I find myself a lot throughout the day going in situations where, again, I'm just sort of fretting or anticipating what's next. And I stop and I say, here's what I prefer. Okay. Here's what I prefer to happen. And just to really do that. And I find that to be a powerful spiritual practice, because just the words I want and I prefer is like an anchoring to my inner core being. So it like puts my focus back on me. And then it helps me better know myself when I say these things.
I love that, because like we're constantly in the state of remembering who we are, and all of the layers that hide us from our light. There's so many different layers, and it's such a, like, I'll give an example. Like I have known, like I repressed it, but like I'm actually a really good artist. And I recently got a beautiful session with a beautiful intuitive who said, well, just draw yourself and put crystals all over yourself. And that's going to be, because you can do that for your healing. I was like, well, that's cool. So I started like drawing a version of myself. It's not a great version, but I was like, wow, I've actually never put that much detail into drawing a picture of myself before. And so instead of like criticizing that, I was like, hey, this is cool that it's coming back out.
And we are not taught that as kids, to stop and self-celebrate. In fact, we use words like bragging and boasting, and we clearly imply with those words that those are negative things. And we've got to turn the tide on that, because we really need to self-celebrate and really kind of unwind that thinking that says, I must downplay the self. Even if I'm pretending, some people do the little false humility. And it's like, even that, we need to let these things go so our authentic spirits can shine through.
I completely agree. And I want to separate one thing, because like, so when I facilitate sessions, I make sure that I'm aware of the fact that I facilitate sessions, because I know it's coming through me. And when I catch myself saying, well, I did this, I'm like, no, I didn't do that, because I know the difference. And it's not humility. It's just like making sure that my ego stays in check, because my ego could be like, well, I just fixed some DNA. I was like, well, no, actually I didn't. The animal that came through me asked for this to happen. And so it's like that balance of like knowing, yes, I'm grateful I get to be this conduit, and I'm grateful I get to facilitate these amazing sessions. And I'm so grateful that I keep getting more and more information come through me, because it brings me joy. And when
Yes,
yeah.
but I'd also say, Sophia, like it's not either or, right? It's not, is it that or is it me? You're part of it. It's yes and. It's yes and.
Yeah, it's definitely yes and, because I know what comes through me is something that comes through me, not separate from me. And it's just a matter of like, because I have a PhD, and there was a point in my life where I was like, I am Dr. So-and-so, and that's pure ego. That's an aspect of me that I did for me. It's cool that I have it. Mm-hmm. Does that define me? No, it doesn't. So it's just this interesting dance of like the real celebrations, like hugging a tree or like connecting with somebody you love that you just got a nudge to reach out to, and they were like, wow, I was just thinking of you. Like celebrating those little things to like affirm the intuition more is it's really
Mhm.
powerful.
Mhm. I also think it's important to affirm your natural strengths. We all have things and skills that are just super easy for us. And there's such a tendency I see among people to say, oh, this was easy for me, like discount it. And it's like, no, just the opposite, that uh, you have this natural skill and this natural gift, and you can do this. Awesome.
Yeah.
Celebrate that.
Yeah, I completely agree. For years, I would say, like, so I've been baking since I was 4, and I'm like, oh well, this is easy, 100% easy. Like I can pretty much take any recipe and convert it to gluten, dairy, sugar free. It's no problem at all because I can just sense it. It's like intuitive. And then I watched somebody try to do what I was doing, and they're like, I just can't do it. I'm like, oh, right, because this is like it's innate within me. It's a gift that I have,
Yes.
and it is true. Like anything that's easy is one of our gifts. And I remember when I was little, I'm like, I hope I live long enough to use all my gifts because I have so many because I'm an old soul.
Yeah. It's a wonderful way. I mean, we do. And I love when I encounter someone else with a different gift than mine, because it somehow affirms my own, and it makes me appreciate even more how our differences show how unique we are, each as individual souls.
I love that. I love that because we do all have pieces. We are pieces to the bigger puzzle,
Yes, we are.
and it would be
Uh,
so dull if we all did the same thing.
mhm. Yeah. And I tend to think, like, if we all truly tapped into those natural strengths and to our true desires, wants, passions, curiosities, interests, I think that it's like the jigsaw puzzle would be completed. Like we'd all click into place and it would be awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Because like what an amazing portrait that would be.
Mhm.
And so how do you help people on their journeys of like self-awareness?
So, um, to me, self awareness is sort of the cost of entry to the spiritual. I mean, it's so um, it's simply what it's all about.
Mhm.
But I would say I have a wealth of tools that are all designed to help you bring little bits of self-awareness to your day. And that's where all the true learning is. I mean, you can read all these things and know that self-awareness helps you, but unless you're going about your day and doing things. So all of the tools I teach are little ways that you're kind of coming back into your center, checking in with yourself, getting into the present moment, but they're all very practical things that we do in our lives.
Mm. I will. I have one that I do regularly. I have chai in the morning, and I make it.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I don't have when I'm in my normal routine, I just thank all the plants that co-created and all the people that picked the plants and distributed the plants, and then I actually feel the resonance
Mm-hmm.
of all of the spices coming into my body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think we live in an infinite and abundant universe, and there are an infinite and abundant ways to do this. I like to offer people lots of different ways. So one simple thing I teach people is the importance, as I said, of saying the words "I want," and to literally walk through your day and each section of your day or each thing that you're doing, to stop and pause and just simply say what you want. And most of us won't do that because we think we can't have what we want. And so we lose touch with this inner knowing. But that's one simple practice to do throughout your day that would not only bring you back into self awareness, help you know yourself better, because what we want is a reflection of who we are. And then, frankly, to start getting more of what you want.
Mhm. I love that because we don't. It is that worthiness issue that is pervasive in our society. Um, there's nothing wrong with asking for what you want.
No, and I nor do I think that there's anything wrong with a practice of saying what you want, even when you have no idea how that could possibly come. I mean, so, an example I might give, I might say, well, I really want my daughter to move back home, but she's living and staying at college. So I still honor the want. I'm not forcing it on her. I'm not controlling her life, but I'm honoring myself by simply saying, there's a part of me that wants that. That's all I'm doing.
I love that, because it's the nuance between preference and control.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think as we're stepping into more of our awareness, I don't know how in tune you are with the Schumann resonance or anything like that, but we're getting bombarded with stuff. I've been like exhausted for the past week because I'm just feeling all the different energies. And it's to help us awaken our light bodies, our crystalline, our Christ consciousness. And so, like, as I notice more and more how I have the conditions, the epigenetics of my ancestors, like, showing up in me, like, forgiving them and honoring myself is really important.
Yes, and I see forgiveness as the letting go of ideas and beliefs and fears and limitations that are holding you back. I mean, that's truly to me what forgiveness is. And when you understand it that way, I think you're much more willing to say, "Oh, I'm going to forgive this one just because I want to get it out of my experience."
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I like, after my dad died, I found this meditation, and it was like a 7-part meditation, and one of them was forgiveness. I listened to that every day for 7 years, and it was not because I was a bad person or anything, but because I had so much repression. I mean, I didn't grow up Catholic, but I grew up in a church where my mom was the organist, my grandfather was a deacon, my grandma ran the cradle roll, my dad was a Sunday school teacher, and I was the only child for the first 6 years. A lot of eyes on me.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so like allowing myself to forgive them, because they were in their level of awareness. They didn't know what they were doing. And to forgive myself for choosing that context. And it's just all these different layers of, it's I won't say it's a full-time job, but it kind of is, to just bring more light into ourselves.
Well, so I find that I'm still discovering new things about myself. I'm still discovering a wound that needs to come forward and needs a little love. And I tend to think that that work will never be done. And you just kind of get comfortable with that, like that I'm always sort of becoming and then healing up the past and becoming and healing up the past. And I guess there's a part of me that wonders, whether it would be really boring if it wasn't, whether suddenly life would be less interesting.
It would be less contrast, that's for sure. I mean, that's part of what we came in for, is to experience contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had contrast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So give me an example of like how stating what you want or you prefer has shown up in your life in different ways. Like,
oh gosh, I would say first and foremost, it helped me get honest with myself. Again, I was someone early in my career that just had these patterns of showing up as other people expected me to, doing what I should, feeling like I was a good person because I followed the rules, those sorts of things. And so I had really lost touch with myself. So saying I want, and when you start to get really honest, and you might go to an event and say, I want this event to end really quickly. I don't want to be here. I mean, again, just starting to get honest, because so many of us are conditioned to do these things that are expected of us and put on a happy face as we do them, which I see as denial of the self. But I mean, it was certainly part of my early adulthood that I was conforming. And so this process of saying I want, even when I was still doing the conforming behavior, was like this baby step towards my authentic self that then over time kind of worked a groove in, and soon gave me the power to say, yeah, I'm not doing something I don't want to do.
I love that. I love that so much, because like we have a tendency to deny that aspect of ourselves. Like my preference is to be alone most of the time, but when I'm with somebody, fully present. Do I want crowds of people? No way in hell I don't want crowds, because then I diffuse my energy. So I have the awareness to know like what I need, what I prefer. So that's what shows up in my life. And it's such an empowering thing to actually allow yourself to learn what you like.
And there are so many people I encounter who are so out of touch with their self, they'll literally say, I don't know what I want. I mean, they feel like they're a barren wasteland of natural motivation because they've conditioned themselves to continually doing what's expected of them, meeting the job requirements, meeting the requirements of others. They're just, giving themselves away to the point where their wants go dormant. And that's one of the things we go through in the book, is really, learning to break free from that, but then going into a place which I personally call the lull, where your wants haven't fully come forward yet, but you're coaxing them forward by honoring yourself. And that's really the importance of starting to say the words I want, because you want those wants, desires, and passions to guide you in life. I see those as the key to your path and your purpose. But so many of us have to go through a lot of work over years to really let those true wants emerge.
Yeah. I have a friend who I recently said to, what brings you joy? And she was like,
I know.
I gotta get back to you on that. I'm like, oh, I love you. I love you.
Oh.
Because, we repress it so much.
We do. We repress it, and we fail to celebrate it when we have it. I mean, that's another thing, which is a habit I think a lot of people have. You take somebody who goes into work and has a work day and might have 100 small moments that are fine or good, but then one thing goes sideways. And what do they talk about when they come home? They come home to the dinner table and like, oh, this terrible thing happened at work. So that's another thing that I really train and teach, is that you've got to get your brain back focused on the things that are going well, because they're there. You're just not giving them attention and energy.
I love that. I love that, because like I grew up with a mom who loved going dark, like just like, what's the worst case scenario I could possibly think of? And I'm like, how's the best case scenario you could possibly think of? And like, we'd have somewhere in between. We can explore all the options, because that was the way she was taught. And it's like, okay, well, I don't like that. That doesn't feel good to me. I like to see, like, sometimes some of my friends say I'm too optimistic, but I like feeling that way. I like to be best.
Yep. And frankly, that's one of the biggest hurdles I see for people who aren't losing their critic, is they actually think they're being risk averse or smart or cautious or even logical or applying common sense. And really what they're doing is applying common thinking and not listening to themselves.
Yeah. And that's a big differentiation, because like I've had this phrase given to me many years ago when I was consulting as an historian. It was like, well, we've never done it that way before. I'm like, and how's that working for you? Because just because you're introducing something new, a new paradigm, a new way of thinking, it doesn't mean that's bad. It just means it's different.
And that's another reason I encourage people to say the words I want as often as they can throughout the day, because our limited minds often only see one way that things you could get what you want, when in reality, there are so many. So just getting into this habit of having a want and just letting it live. And so many of us, instead of letting our wants live, start stepping all over them, like, oh, that could never happen, or that's too unlikely, or this is the only, I mean, all of these things. It's like, no, just say what you want. And so many of us can't even get a menu at a restaurant and identify what we want.
I've seen this so many times. Like I go to a restaurant, I scan it, I totally feel what my body wants, like maybe 2 minutes the most, but rarely.
Yeah. Yeah. So I even coach people who are very entrenched in ideas of what they should be eating, which again, I believe are false ideas.
Yeah.
You've got to tune into yourself. And I tell them, okay, so at a minimum, say this to yourself at the restaurant: I want a cheeseburger, but I'm ordering a salad. I mean, just at least acknowledge the want.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Because like it's like it's a kind of a baby step, but it's not, because just honoring that like acknowledgement of what the preference is. Because like I've seen it so many times of like my mom, before she went down the journey of dementia, she she would order the exact thing I wanted. Like she'd wait for me to order and then she'd order the same thing. I'm like, Mom, what do you want? I don't know. I'm like, go ahead, Mom. Then we'll wait a few minutes, because I wanted her to order first. I wanted her to have free will choice, and then I'd order something different, even if I wanted the thing, because like I wanted her. It wasn't like me subsuming myself. It was just like I wanted the contrast more than I cared about the food. And she'd always like, it was like this, well, what did you just do to me? And I'm like, gave you free will choice. And it was so shocking to her system that it made her very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and for sure, there are definitely older generations who celebrated and really propped themselves up for denying their wants. And so when you have a strong persona that your goodness comes from self-denial, it can be hard, but I believe it can be done.
Yeah, I think it is too. It's just practice, right?
Yes, it is. It very much is, which is why I love the practical aspects of spirituality. It's not just about these concepts, it's about taking them down into your life, exactly where you are today, and start applying them.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. Like there's the esoteric, which is great, but if I can't actually bring that practice into me, it's just like a great thought process.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, it's for me, embodying what I know versus just intellectualizing it is so far from here to heart, right? Here to heart is like the biggest trip, but it's also so liberating once you actually get that coherence.
Absolutely.
So just give me a second to tune in. What has been the most fantastic want you have seen materialize?
Oh gosh. I feel like it's this book, and the books that I'm working on right now. Let me just talk a little bit about it, because it was something where I hit midlife and had a good life and a good job and I was happy, but I had this deep yearning that said, there's something more for me. And I really did something unusual, which is I said, I'm just going to pursue this writing thing for fun. I'm just going to have a good time with it. I mean, and I've always been, even with all of my spirituality, I've always been a very driven, ambitious person. I like my goals. I like to succeed. And so the idea that I would just simply have fun and play with writing was crazy, but I did it. I said, okay, I'm just going to have a good time with this. And I started writing. And the first thing I did is that I started crafting essays and newsletters for myself and scheduling them to send on random days in the future. So I would have emails that would arrive in my inbox from
Oh,
me,
that's awesome.
and I loved it. It was thrilling. It's still thrilling to me. And from there, it was this beautiful unfoldment where then I said to a few friends, oh, if I crafted a newsletter, would you read it? And I had a few friends. And then from there, my newsletter exploded. And it just was this beautiful process where the next thing I know, I'm sitting down and writing a book. I didn't outline it. I didn't plan it. I just sat down and said, I'm going to just start writing and sharing my wisdom and see what happens. So that was just one of the most amazing journeys of my life. And it truly was just me literally saying, I'm going to follow what feels the most fun to me today around this project and keep going. And it just amazes me that this is the key to life.
That is so beautiful, because it's like, that's a follow your, right? Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss.
Mm-hmm.
What lights you up? And it doesn't
Oh,
have to be the same thing every day.
no, I mean, so, gosh, just life lights me up. I cook dinner every night for my family, and I completely love that. I will happily spend 2 hours cooking for a meal we will eat in 15 minutes. And I get great joy around pulling the ingredients together and putting it together. It lights me up to write something that I feel like is clear guidance that another person could pick up and walk through and say, I can do this. I can, and I love that when I can sharpen it, or even when I can write something that is persuasive and it persuades someone to see themselves and life in a better light. I love, love, love that. Gosh, that's a loaded question because I feel like my days are filled with moments that light me up.
That's beautiful. Like, that's really how we're supposed to live.
Mhm.
Like, I got to walk dogs today in Bend off leash for an hour, and it was just like the smelling the I just lost the word. Smelling the trees and the breeze and the feeling the wind on my face. It was just like, how magical is this that I get to do this?
Yes. And if you would have met me 10 years ago, again, I've always been a happy person, but I was basically someone who got up each morning and said, what's on my calendar? What do I have to do? And literally, those were the questions in my head. What do I have to do? And I worked uh, for my employer. I did my job. I consistently asked myself the question, what should I do here? As if there was an unwritten playbook
Yeah.
that was in charge of my life, but I was constantly asking, what should I do here? Um, Came home in the evening and was exhausted and wondered why. And again, I had a good job. I made the most of it. I'm someone who believes that we all have to celebrate and bless where we are. And so I did all of those things, but I was kind of just dragging myself through the motions, doing something that was fine, but it didn't light me up. And now, through a little bit of inner work, I'm at a place in life where, as I said, I have moments of joy every day and repeatedly.
Yeah. It's such a difference, because like I have eliminated that word out of my vocabulary. Should I just
Mhm.
It's not a word. And when I hear myself saying I have to, I stop myself. I say I get to.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
I had I had a post-it that I kept nearby for years that simply said, "There are no shoulds." Like I needed to keep reminding myself that's just a false idea, and I need to get in touch with what I want.
oh yeah, because the should is just shaming
Hmm.
and, and
Yes.
and some sort of emotional bullying, and it's like, no, you're the only one that literally has to do anything or gets to do anything, and it is free will choice. And when I catch myself saying I have to do that, it just feels icky. I was like, well, why don't I just say I get to do that?
Yeah, I'd even go further. When I hear the words "have to," I feel like they exist outside of me, whereas I want exists inside of me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, because like it's the perception that there's this thing above us telling us what to do is programming. It's an illusion though, because ultimately we are that thing that we perceive that is separate from us. You know, it's like, okay, God, I actually had this conversation last week. I'm like, okay, I am presence. This fractal of the I am presence that is in this third dimensional construct wants this, whatever, I can't remember what it was, but I remember the conversation like, okay, I know I'm part of the I am presence. This fractal of that in the third dimensional carbon construct is a fractal of this. This needs support.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really fun to feel that awareness, because I've known about it, but like the difference between knowing and actually feeling it was really amazing.
So what I continually pick up from that presence is a want for me to surrender my limiting beliefs about myself and about what is possible, to cash in my mistaken beliefs and turn them into things that actually support me. I mean, that to me, that's true redemption right there, is to take some of your ideas that are just flat out wrong and get them transformed into something that is both expansive, uplifted, and supportive, and to really step into my power and own it.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what we're here for. We're not here to, like, yes, we have this third dimensional thing, but that's just part of us. Like we are limitless. We can do anything. Like the stuff that I see in my meditations is like, well, of course I can do that. Why not? And so to eliminate those beliefs, those constructs, those perceptions of separation, because we are that, you know, we are that I am presence.
Yep,
and
I agree.
it is living through us and experiencing through us. So why don't we just play in that field? Yeah. So I know you've written Lose Your Critic for Good, which I love, and it's on Amazon and where else?
Anywhere books are sold online, so Barnes and Noble, Walmart, I mean, anywhere you prefer to buy your books, it's there.
Awesome. And then you mentioned that you're writing other books. What do you got in the pot?
All right, so I'll give you a preview of the next one.
Okay.
It's called Don't Quit Yet. Create your dream career instead. And it makes the case and argues that if you are hankering for a better job or a different career or to go out on your own, don't quit your current job. Stay put, deal with your fears, your limiting beliefs, and get to know yourself better in an environment where you feel safe and you're getting paid. And then take your up-leveled self out to the new thing that you want to do. And so it really kind of turns on its head this common advice of like, make the leap, you know, jump, go out on your own. And it's my belief you can do it. That's a way. That's one way. But when you do that, you take with you all your beliefs, all your fears, and all of those things that are binding you up, and you're just dealing with them in new scenarios that often are very fear inducing. If for instance, you make a leap and you don't have an income, or you make a leap into an industry that you're not sure about. This book, again, it's very step-by-step and process oriented with specific exercises that you can do while you stay put in your job to set yourself up for success when you're ready to leave.
Love that. I so love that you're bringing in this energy of like how to do it, because there's so many books out there. They're like, okay, this is like, I remember talking to my minister when I was little. I'm like, how do you pray? It's like, you pray. Not helpful. Practical steps. Greg Braden did a great job of breaking it down a couple of years ago, but like, you know, how do you do it? Yeah. And to have, you know, that you're being guided to do this, it's really magical. So thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you. It's total joy for me, and I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't.
I get that. I get that. So I'm going to ask the final question is how do people find you?
The easiest way to find me is at my website, sueerhart.com. And there you can sign up for my free weekly newsletter. I publish an essay every Sunday morning to help you connect with your authentic self. And there you can find information around my book, some courses, or my blog. All kinds of resources are there to help you on your personal spiritual journey.
Awesome. Well, Sue, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and for being on the planet with me at this time in our consciousness. I'm so grateful to know you.
Same to you. Thank you.
You're welcome.